Once there was a father who had two sons. He loved his sons very much. The younger son was not happy with his life and wanted his share of his father's inheritance.
Father, I don't like my life. I want my inheritance.
Although his father didn't want to, he decided to allow his son to leave and gave him his share of the inheritance.
Girls.
Whoa!
Oh, girl! I got $50 for my inheritance.
Soon the son had spent all of his money on partying and loose living, but eventually he became very poor and hungry. He didn't even have enough money to buy a refrigerator for his new house.
I don't even have a refrigerator!
Soon the son was homeless, hungry, and in need of a haircut. Then the son thought to himself, I will go back to my father and tell him that I have sinned against God and against him.
I will go back to my father and confess my sins.
And while he was a long way off, his father ran to him and kissed him.
Son!
Father!
Oh, I love you, son! What happened to your hair, son? Oh, I love you so much. Here, son, put on my ring. My son was lost and now he's found. He was dead and now he's been raised. Oh, welcome back home, son. I know it wasn't exactly like it was in the Bible, but that comes out of Luke, the 15th chapter. And it only tells half the story. Next week, I'm going to finish that story. But the first part of the story is, of course, about the prodigal son. And you probably know it pretty well. You've heard about it in a sermon maybe, or maybe we've talked about it in Kidz Connection, or it's been taught in your connection group at some point. But the story starts off with, two sons, and the one son he's not happy about his life, and he wants to have money, he wants to have everything that he wants. He's really kind of spoiled rotten. And instead of his dad telling him, no, you need to stay here and I'm not going to give you your inheritance, the dad goes ahead in the story of Jesus's and he does that. He gives it to his son. And the son squanders it. He basically loses all of his inheritance. And in the real story in the Bible, it tells us that when he ran out of food, when he didn't have anything to eat, he was actually eating the same food that he was feeding pigs. So he got very desperate before he had a heart change and he ran home to his father. And sometimes we have to be in a desperate situation or things not go our way for a while before God gets our attention. Really, we're seeing a lot of that in our nation today, aren't we? And really our whole world is things aren't going our way right now. We want to do what we want to do. We want to get back to sports. I really would like to go watch a Cardinals game. I know you guys are missing your activities, graduations for, students, all kinds of things are gone. They're out of the picture. And we could be spoiled and throw a tantrum and walk away from God and be angry. But that doesn't do any good. The interesting thing is that in the story, as the son does go away, does party, spend all of his money, his dad's hard-earned money. At the end of the story, when his dad sees him a long way off, he still wants to have a relationship with his son. And God is like that with us. Even though we sin and we we mess up and we break God's commands and laws, God wants to have a relationship with us. He proved that by sending his son Jesus. And because of that, we should work real hard at keeping our relationship with God good. That's our response, should be that, to try our best to have a relationship with the Lord, to pray, to be in his word, to listen carefully to our parents, not to act like spoiled brats. And at the end of the day, you see in that story as well the wisdom of the father who knew what was best for his son, but his son just wasn't going to listen. And so we had a little fun with it. We put a Winslow spin on it. But the story is the same. And that was that the son didn't listen to wisdom. He went off and did his own thing, and he ended up with a really bad life. But God, of course, was forgiving, and he was generous with his grace, and he was glad to see him. And I was thinking when I was making that video, if Nadi really did leave our family on bad terms one day, what would my response be? And of course it would be, I would want to have a relationship with him. And you guys at home, you kids, you should really strive to have a good relationship with your parents and to obey them, to listen carefully to them, and to know that they love you. And when they tell you to do things that you don't understand or you want your own way, they've lived a lot of years and they have a lot more wisdom. So you've got to listen carefully and learn from that. So that's a little bit of our lesson from this week, and it's going to extend into next week when I'm going to finish the story. Talk a little bit about the older brother. You didn't hear much about him in the story, but it started with two sons, and Nati had an older brother in the story, Noah. We're going to talk about the rest of that next week. I hope you guys are doing good. You're hanging in there. I can't wait to see you guys, and I love you very much. I'm praying for you, praying for your families. God bless you all.